Fear not, denizens, parade is here, aka the bringer of rain, aka father of the sea and sun, aka king of the core. And before I introduce my very special guest, I want to welcome you all to the Core Creators Podcast, where I interview creators across the HoloNet. And today we have the return of the king of customs, the bespoke booster, member of the Galactic Mercantile Guild, Burgundy 78 of none other than Burgundy Squad, I'an Grayson of Junk Traders Outpost. How are you today?
I'm really good, but you're going to make me laugh and then I'm going to cough. the con crud in my lungs, even though it's been a week.
That stuff sticks with you. That stuff sticks with you.
Yeah, still tired, still kind of catching up, but very full of positive emotions for sure.
Yeah, well, we're happy you're back in one piece. And I think you're one of the few who've come back to the show, and even in just like back to back, because you were just leaving before we recorded and it's only a few days after. So welcome back.
Oh, man, you don't even know what I have planned for the 25th time. It's going to be so amazing.
I'm so happy for you to be here, and I can't wait to do the next 25 episodes with you as the co-host of this part of the show. So
before we get to the call now,
yeah,
this is super important. I forgot some key Galactic Mercantile Guild people, right?
Okay, please.
At one point you were sort of having me list people off.
I did, yep.
And I forgot one Billy Maddox. How is that even remotely possible?
You know,
right?
he
founding member, friend of yours and mine,
friend of the show. Yeah. Well,
I punish myself
for sure. If you watch enough of the content here on Raincore, Billy gets mentioned on every episode. So, yes. So if you have your bingo card out, he might as well be that centerpiece, right? So, it should be fine, unless he threatened to put a bounty on your head for not mentioning him. But yes, he is part of the Galactic.
He didn't, but he should. So I want to read off the entire list because
Please.
I feel super bad about leaving folks off. So left off Maker Maddox, Billy Maddox, founding member. Also Scum and Villainy Acquisitions, founding member. Super important. One of the best helmet makers out there.
Oh yeah.
And the chief name in Hut Slayer, Bustier. Whatever else
you posted one recently. I saw.
I think I want to buy it for myself. I think I got everybody else, but I still want to list everybody.
Okay,
right?
yeah,
So
please give it to us.
Galactic Surplus, Jedi Forge, Jettisonable, myself, Maker Maddox, Moss Gracchus, Order 66 Design, Prop Right, Gum and Villainy,
yep.
That Corner in Coruscant, Total Closet Nerd, and Van Oaks Props. Those are
awesome.
The folks.
Awesome. And I'll probably could just add in the Instagram, and so that we could link everybody there to find these creators. And if not, I'll just link everyone who was mentioned just to give them a shout out, because you guys all make great stuff. And if you're into Star Wars and you want like any little thing, I'm sure that the Mercantile Guild has it for you.
We do. We cover kind of like every corner. When I was at the con, one of the pitches was, this is the Galactic Mercantile Guild. This is 12 tables in one. We stretch from that corner in Coruscant all the way to Moss Gracchus and jump things Outpost in between. So, we had it covered. We had 12 creators represented, but I think we had 9 folks with stuff on the table, which is still
awesome.
A lot, man.
Yeah, that's awesome. All right, so let's get into it. What is Halcy-Con for the people who don't know?
All right, so Halcy-Con is the first boutique niche convention for fans of the Galactic Star Cruiser, or the cruise ship Halcyon, as opposed to Halcy-Con, right? And so it was the first of its kind. It was held in Orlando, kind of a little bit close to Hollywood Studios. I'd say we were maybe a 10-minute ride from Hollywood Studios.
Nice.
At the Wyndham Hotel.
Okay.
And fantastically, all of the con space and all of the sort of like the hotel rooms were all in one.
Okay.
Our room was probably one of the closest to the con space / vendors table, so it was super easy to move all of our merch. We didn't even need one of those trolleys that you get from the lobby to move your luggage. It was fantastically convenient. So The general gist of the con was it was, obviously vending, which is a big part of most cons. There were panels from around, I think, 10 in the morning until about 5 or so in the afternoon. And then there was also an exhibition space, which I didn't even know about until after the con was over, where folks who create art but weren't selling. So for instance, like there was this custom figure maker that had displayed all of their sort of sculpts and figures in packaging for all the Star Cruiser characters.
Oh wow!
Evidently, that was all on display, and I never saw it.
Yeah,
but it was awesome, man. And besides the normal con stuff, there was also nighttime festivities, which again some cons have.
Sure.
The first night it was kind of what was called a homecoming.
Okay.
And it was perfectly named, right? It's like people coming home, re-meeting each other, drinks and music and all that.
Yeah.
The second night there was 2 bands and a comedy show.
Yeah, I saw you post that. Yeah.
Yeah, it was awesome. And then the third night was just like a gala, right, where everybody dressed in their finery, and then there was a DJ, and everybody had a fantastic time alongside a Sabak tournament. Sabak tournament for charity.
Nice.
Man, so good. So good. Right? I mean, think about like everything that a Star Wars fan could kind of want in like a very intensified package.
Yeah.
And, it was awesome.
That sounds rad. So what was your day one like?
What bong. So I was chatting with one of the con organizers, right? So it was Martin and Christine from the podcast Heroes of the Halcyon.
Okay.
Were the main not only brains but heart of the con. I was chatting with Christine, and she's like, "You're the one of the few people that had the trifecta. You were an attendee, you were a vendor, and a speaker."
Oh, look at that.
I said, "Do not recommend."
Yeah, that's a lot.
To do all 3 is really rough.
Right.
Still a very rich experience. I don't feel like I was cheated in any way, shape, or form, but just the vending alone is a tall order.
Yeah.
So day one, honestly, was loading in boxes upon boxes of stuff that had been shipped to Florida, plus the stuff I had brought myself.
Right.
Mostly my own things, plus a handful of other things from other people. And basically vending for 8 hours. It was like 10 to 6 or so, I think.
Oh, wow.
Maybe 5, can't remember.
Yeah.
But day one was intense because we had a line all day. There was not a single lull, and I think the first time I sat down was 4 o'clock.
Wow.
From 8 a.m. And so, intense, tiring, but also so fulfilling.
Sure.
Right? To have folks just one after the other come and just geek out over the stuff that me and my brothers and sisters have made. It's pretty awesome. I'm
sure people knew some stuff there already or bought stuff. They're like, oh, I already have these because I would have. Oh.
Yes, absolutely. 3 or 4 of the bigger makers are myself, Mars, Corner and Coruscant, Don from Mosrakis Traders, and then sort of the dark horse of it all was the Batuu Bounders, who had a case of coaxium that sold the entire case. It was almost 60 vials. And that was a hot item, and justifiably so, because they're awesome. I don't own one myself, but like they do the spice vials as well, and I just happen to have one right in front of me.
Yeah.
But just imagine like a full-size coaxium vial that lights up, but also has leather.
Ooh, yeah.
It's a partnership between them and Total Closet Nerd.
That's what I thought, yeah.
So it was really a boutique item, and
that's so
cool. No wonder it
sold
super well.
That's super cool. Yeah. So did you vend 2 days or just one, and then give yourself a day to like kind of you both? Okay.
2. So both of the days of the con I was vending. Luckily, the second day was a little shorter.
Okay.
We didn't have the load in. It was awesome. They had security, and so we didn't have to break down every night.
Nice, yeah.
Just locked the doors. And they had just sort of hotel security, make sure everything was taken care of.
Yeah.
And then the hours were a little shorter, so it was like 10 to 3 the second day.
Okay.
And I think that was a good call, because most people had spent most of their money on day one because there were so many amazing vendors.
Yeah.
But also, I think a lot of the really special panels were reserved for day two.
Okay.
And so there was a little less competition from the vendors to the panel.
We'll get to it, but did you do panels on the first day or just the second?
I did a panel on each day.
Okay.
Myself, yeah.
Okay, before we get to the panel part, did you pick up any cool stuff yourself? Like anything?
Of course.
Anything you want to share with the class?
Show and tell?
Yeah, show and tell.
Yes. Back when I was a teacher, we had a thing like follow your bliss.
Oh.
Which is basically, high school version of show and tell. For
Sure.
most folks.
How about Star Wars? Or like, do you have anything to claim as you're coming into this part of the galaxy as a smuggler?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I showed you before we came on, but like I have a whole, legal-sized envelope full of stuff I haven't even gone through, and this was like what, where you got your little name placard and sort of the guidance for like how to moderate a panel and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So it's just full of stuff.
Yeah.
So I don't think we have time for that.
What a tease. Definitely.
Well, it's a lot of flat stuff. So, right,
Okay.
stickers and flyers, a handful of pins are in there as well.
Nice.
That I kind of stuffed down there. But,
Sure.
I mean, first and foremost, I've been to cons before, but I had sort of forgotten that this was a thing. But, like, you have your badge.
Yeah.
A nice kind of vendor badge. And then all the people who produce the little tags kind of like, people go nuts with this, like at Dragon Con.
That's what I was going to say. Yeah, Dragon Con's a big thing.
Yeah, but I don't attend a lot of cons, or it's been a while since I have, so I kind of forgot that was a thing.
Yeah.
So, I'm super thrilled to have one that says vendor on it, and then underneath it speaker, which is kind of like super special to me.
Yeah.
But then all the other people who produced it, stuff like, we're keeping the Galactic Star Cruiser alive. It's our jam, Saja Records.
Nice.
So like a little record brand.
Sure.
Another one, Live Your Story. I thought that was nice.
Okay.
Droid Rights, come on.
Womp Rat Mando, where you at? He's a friend of the show. Activism.
Got Force. Kind of like the Got Milk thing.
Yeah.
That's kind of like a first order symbol thing with the Halcyon CSL.
Of course they got in.
Tall Paul bounty hunting, accepting commissions. There's a gentleman named Tall Paul who's kind of famous in the Star Cruiser community. And
Nice.
He bounds as Cad Bane.
Oh, cool.
And then there's one in Hebrew. I don't read Hebrew.
Interesting.
But it says Kulanu Ke Echad. I can pronounce Hebrew, but I don't know what it means.
Okay.
But yeah, it was cool. I remember who gave it to me, Saja Sisi, but I just don't know what it means in Hebrew.
We'll have to get that translated for sure.
Yeah. Help us Google Translate. So there's that, and then let's see if there's anything else fun nearby. So on the Star Cruiser, there's a specific drink called the now I'm forgetting what it's called, but it's from Mustafar. There's like a Mustafarian drink. It's spicy. It's like a margarita.
Yes.
With some mezcal in it, and there's this kind of hot pepper sugar you put in it.
Okay.
And a good friend of mine smuggled 3 containers of it, which you can't get anymore because it was only on the ship. I will not reveal their identity, but that was a very special, like, he's like, hey, you want some lava juice? I was like, yes.
Like, do you spice? Do you spice?
Yeah, I felt very much like he was, trying to tempt me there. But, yeah, I mean, I'd say for now, that's just a couple fun things.
Yeah.
Besides this, when I saw this, I think I started to weep a little bit. So there's a shop called Cardboard Galaxy.
Okay.
That it took me right back to my childhood. I was born in the late 70s, and so I'm kind of on the tail end of when toys were a little on the janky side.
Of course, yeah.
So the early days of Star Wars had a lot of cardboard play sets involved.
Okay.
And so this gentleman makes cardboard play sets.
Dude.
All sorts of stuff.
That's rad.
He had like Droid Depot. He had like, I don't know, like an alleyway in, like Navarro or something. But this is the Sublight Lounge, which is the bar.
Yeah.
Star Cruiser, and it's like one of my favorite places. So I was like, I have to have it.
I got literal chills when you showed me that, because that's what you had to deal with, like, it was usually sometimes included in the box, like the display part of the box, and you just pull it out.
Or
and
it was
you're like,
back in the box, right?
yeah, like behind the window, and like this is what you get to play with. Now we're all spoiled and have like 3D printers and can make anything.
Or even some of the early like Power of the Force ones had a little bit of like diorama.
Yeah.
With the packaging. So I started to like tear up a little bit. I was like,
oh
this is
man,
beautiful.
Yeah.
And there was a whole double table laid out with all these cardboard dioramas, and it was thrilling.
That's so cool. So is that just a picture of the diorama, or is that a diorama itself?
It is the diorama itself.
Okay, cool. Yeah.
This flat package. I have not undone it yet.
Yeah.
It's got the 3 back walls plus the Halcy-Con table. And I got one for my son as well because he collects like the 3 3/4 droids.
Right. Okay.
Galaxy's Edge.
Yeah.
You know.
Now, okay. Random question: are you guys collectors of toys like in box and have on display, or do you like ripping those bad boys open, letting them stretch their hammies out?
A little of both.
I love
a little of both. I wouldn't say I'm a collector of toys.
Okay.
But I was. I used to be, when I was younger in my college days, I had to put it behind me, but. Yeah, I have a few, Black Series.
Yeah, same.
Box,
Same.
Like any respectable Star Wars fan of recent.
Yeah. I definitely have done a lot of collecting. I think people know me for that in IRL, but I've definitely slowed it down. But I have a pretty nice collection of Revan figures.
Yeah,
still
got some Funko Pops.
I got some Funkos, and this is just a small portion of it, but this will change eventually.
Yeah. Well, I have a friend who owns a comic book store.
Nice.
Downtown, and it's one you've probably been to. Big Brother Comics.
I have. That's an awesome store.
Yeah, my buddy Kenny owns it, and he's more of a toy collector than anything.
Okay.
I mean, he does Magic cards as well, but
yeah.
He's like, oh, you have a focus, right? I guess if you collect one of certain thing or whatever. So I'm a big pre-Tamora Morrison Boba Fett fan.
Okay.
Right? So it has to be kind of like OT Boba Fett, like before he started speaking more
often. Yeah.
So like anything that's like Empire Strikes Back or Return of the Jedi, Boba Fett, I'm all over that.
Nice.
But yeah, I do branch out into other Boba Fett and other Mandalorian.
It's hard not to when like the toys are really cool. Speaking of like what they're making nowadays.
So I've got kind of like a big shelf in one of my rooms of anything I can find. So it could be like old little janky Taco Bell toys. I've got one from like the 90s, and it's like a little floaty dealy, or a mug, or like a candy dish thing my buddy gave me. Anything with Boba Fett on it.
That's awesome. All right, so how many?
Back to the con.
Yeah, back to the con. Back to what everyone's here to talk about. None of this collector nonsense.
Nope. Completely off brand.
How many tables were there at the convention? I know the map was put out, but I didn't look like super hard and give it a count.
I don't think I counted either, but if I can kind of visualize, there were 2 vendors' rooms. I was in the smaller of the 2, and in ours there was, I'm kind of mentally counting, like 8 or 10.
Okay.
And so if the other room had more, probably to 15 in the bigger room.
Yeah.
The bigger room, bigger tables, just because of what was offered.
Oh, gotcha.
So for instance, there was like a woodworker gentleman.
Okay.
And he needed really big space because his wares were quite large.
Right.
Whereas the tape, such as us, most of our stuff is on the small side.
I see.
We didn't really need anything, so we had a 6-footer.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'd say like between 20 and 30 vendors, probably.
Yeah.
And wide variety of stuff. So it was good.
Yeah. Real quick shout out to Womprat. He made that like table lay thing, right?
He did. The initial pitch was to have it be a banner behind us.
Oh, okay.
We didn't have anything really to affix it to the wall with properly.
Yeah.
It just wasn't set up for that. You know how some cons will have like the metal rail with like the black backdrop?
Yeah.
They didn't have that, but Womprat put this together for us, and it's
rad.
About 5 feet by 2.5.
Yeah.
With the Galactic Mercantile Guild logo, and then astutely he figured out that our GMG looks like a sandcrawler.
It does. I was just
You just put those letters together, GMG, Galactic Mercantile, it's a sandcrawler.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was funny. So Womprat was like sending me photos. He's like, too much or not enough? I go, you know the answer to that. You know the answer to weathering. It's always not enough.
Not enough.
Keep going. He's like, okay, I like you again.
He is a man of many talents.
He is. He really is. And I knew he would be able to get it done super quickly, and so that's why I trusted him with it. He had kind of a short timetable.
Sure.
And I myself could have done it, but I was so busy with fabrication for our own stuff that I was like, you know what, I gotta farm this out.
Yeah. How did that go? Because I know when we talked to you last, you were like, you had to get something ready for the con, and you were kind of in between. And how did that turn out?
Yeah, I mean, it all got done.
Nice.
You know, the general amount of stuff I wanted was about 75 of the medallions. So that's what I'm wearing right now, right? The Halcy-Con medallion. I think I showed you last time.
Yeah.
Had 75 ready to go, good to go. I wanted 3 of each planet that I do in the Traveler's medallions. So that's 23 times 3.
Okay.
And then I wanted to have a full complement of the Batuu Bounders medallions, which was about 25 of those.
Okay.
And then beyond that, I had like a whole cosplay that I was really working on that was probably my most ambitious yet. Now, in the grand scheme of cosplays, it's nothing. You know, there's no film. You know, but for me, you know, who's really quite new to the costuming aspect, it was a lot, because every piece was either made, altered, or weathered.
Okay. So
there was a lot to it.
Don't sell yourself short. Like any costume for anybody, it's like it's your personal project that you have to, you know, complete and everything. And if it's a challenge for you, it's a challenge, you know? You don't have to...
Yeah. Time challenge for sure.
Oh, for sure, yeah.
They do take time to get right. And since it was a full body jumpsuit or coveralls, you know, there's a lot of real estate to weather. So.
By the way, if you guys haven't checked out Junk Traders Outpost posts, man, you guys look great. You and Kate Ryder killed it in the costuming and I was like, this is too fire. This is too cool for me to gather. I want to know how long did it take to put your look together? Because I know some of them are your previous looks that you had, like to decide what you're going to wear to this special event, right? Because it's, you know,
not too long.
Okay.
Because you know, we haven't really talked about my history with costuming, but the long and short of it is that I just sort of acquire pieces over time and just try to incorporate it into my main OC. Yeah. In different ways, you know. Everybody I know is a fan of Off the Rack Rebellion, and they were talking recently about how to interpret your character through multiple looks. Yes. Because, as we know, most people don't just wear one set of clothes and have a uniform. And you know, I mean, I know Star Trek does that. Yes. But you know, why we love this universe is we really want it to feel as lived in as possible. And so, when you have a character, fleshing them out and sort of imagining what their days would be like or how they would dress for different occasions is part of the fun. So for me, it was pretty easy because Thursday was not a con day, but that was like the homecoming event where it was like, I want to say it was like 6 or 7 o'clock for people who are coming into town and staying in the room block. And so it was kind of like a cocktail party. Yeah. But not as high as a gala, which is what the last night. So I was like, okay, so what would I'an Grayson wear? Well, one of the things he does from time to time is he goes and plays sabacc. And, you know, when he's off planet, he's going to have something a little nicer so he can get in the door. But he's not particularly fancy as a person in general. He's a pretty working class guy. But he does have to dress up from time to time to work with clients that do earn more than him and do business with. So he has his kind of like sabacc look, which is the blue Far, Far Away DNC shirt, which I wore, I think, on the last podcast. Yeah. That has like it's got like a little orange triangle that's, it's like a velour, I think. Okay. And the really beautiful pleated sleeves. Yes, yeah. So I wore that under my sabacc jacket. I have a Culture Fly, they have that subscription box. And it's like kind of a members only jacket. Okay. It says like New Media Prime Sabacc League on it. Oh, nice. And so that was kind of like my Thursday night look. Yeah, yeah. It made the most sense. It's like it's casual, but it still looks nice. Yeah, yeah. The next day is like, okay, well, this is con day. This is selling. And so that's kind of my normal scoundrel look, which basically is this, right?
Mhm,
So usually
mhm,
it's my scoundrelly vest with a couple of greeblies. I always have I'm fixing it right now because I had to re-glue it, but I have a name badge that says
Oh,
Stone
nice.
Traders Outpost on it, kind of
Nice.
like, like my
Like
target.
you're, yeah. Hello, I'm Quickie Mart.
Yeah, yeah, or part of the Geek Squad or something.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So I always change this between my outfits if I am vending, basically, to show that relationship.
Yeah.
So I wore my smuggler outfit basically on day 1, technically. And then day 2 was a more formal version of my smuggler's outfit, which does have a scoundrel shirt from Gabbercrete, which is the double-breasted Han type shirt.
Yeah.
But underneath a Rebel Base creation cape, cloak with a pauldron and all kinds of lovely stuff on it.
Yeah.
Because that was the day that I was doing the Makers panel.
Okay.
And so I would imagine that I'an would probably dress up to impress a little bit more.
Yeah, yeah.
When he's speaking in front of, a potential client and or peers.
Right.
And then the formal night is the formal night, right? So I have kind of a formal look that's kind of based on the Saja look.
Yeah.
But it's more like a blue suit.
Okay.
Like a blue business / evening suit.
Yeah.
To me, it made sense. It actually was not too difficult to put those 4 looks together because it was like, all right, so what would he need or what would his philosophy be for these events? And then the coup de grace, which I don't want to go too much into because the photos haven't come out yet, is that Kate Ryder and I, our characters, needed to go to Batuu to perform a specific Burgundy Squadron mission.
Okay.
I'an Grayson doesn't typically do missions at all. In fact, he doesn't because he's a Burgundy sympathizer, but he's not a spy. He's not a fighter. He's a merchant.
Got it.
And so Kate Ryder actually kind of brings him in. She's like, hey, I need some stuff to do this mission, and then I also need your help. And so we both created an alter ego so we can go incognito on Batuu because as a businessman, I'm on Batuu all the time, so I would be very recognizable.
Yeah.
She wanted to make sure she was not recognized as a Burgundy Squadron member. So
nice.
we put some thought into it.
Yeah, I love that.
But we basically have incognito costumes, which maybe we'll talk about another time.
For sure.
We need to wait for those things to be revealed because ISO is working very diligently on those photos right now.
Oh yeah, there was some behind the scenes, stories that were placed on Instagram, so got a little sneak peek, but it's not
it's a sneak peek today.
Yeah, it's not a holoscan, official stamp until it's posted. So, I'm excited.
Well, it's the first time I've ever done a shoot with another person, right? So I've only been shot by D by myself, but to work with somebody else was really fun.
Yeah.
Kate and I are good friends, and I think we work well together. But it'll be interesting to sort of figure out how we're going to roll this out because they're pictures of both of us, and so we both own them, and so we have to kind of try to figure out how to use both of our Instagrams to tell the story.
Yeah.
Because we don't want to tell one side and then one side. We want it to be very seamless between our 2 accounts.
Yeah. That'll be an interesting challenge, I think, and to kind of figure out, which is always cool, especially with social media. There's a lot of tools and things because you can have a collaborative post. It'll say both names at the top, and so I'm excited to see what you guys just have worked up there. So
me too. I have a kind of a vision of what it is because I know what photos he took.
Yeah.
But I'm always surprised because he'll see something or do something or frame something that I'm not prepared for.
Yeah.
And it's always awesome. So.
That guy is also magical when it comes to photos and storytelling, and he's too humble to accept the compliments.
And he's a good roommate too. He was my roommate at the con. And
nice.
We spent a lot of time together. And he saved my butt many a time when I had not eaten for a while. So he would go back to the room, grab something for me, heat something up. It was very nice.
That's solid. What a good guy that D is. What a good guy. How did those panels go? You did a bunch of them. So I thought it was going to be 3. It's only 2?
No, I mean, it was just 2.
Okay.
Kate did 2 as well, but she had a 3rd event. She was facilitating, I guess, a swap.
Right,
So
right.
that was kind of her thing. I did not get to attend it. I was actually working at the time, but I only got to hear about it. But
Hmm.
so the first panel I was on was on Friday midday, and it was
Okay.
our book club. So
Yeah.
myself, again, Kate is in the Venn diagram of everything I do. We're co-conspirators on a lot of stuff, and we think very similarly and just appreciate each other
Yeah.
artistically quite a bit.
Hmm.
Um, so we're in a book club together amongst other people, some other folks that are kind of Burgundy adjacent, is
Sure.
what we call it.
Sure.
We've also got Burgundy curious as well. I love that term. It's pretty fun. You know, people who are kind of flirting with it, not quite
Yeah.
but are good, not even good, but great costumers themselves. They just haven't committed to the Burgundy life.
Got it. Understood.
Yeah, and so it was a very small and intimate book club. We had 4 panelists: myself, Kate, and our 2 friends, Chelsea and Addison, who I voyaged with on the Star Cruiser.
Right.
The 3rd time I went.
Yeah, that's what you said. Yeah.
And they're just fantastic folks. It was a very, like I said, small and intimate panel of 4 people in the room.
Okay.
Besides the fact that it was probably one of the hottest rooms, temperature-wise, I think scared a lot of people away. It was also scheduled against some really awesome, amazing panels that I wish I could have attended myself.
Yeah.
So, like, seriously, no judgment, and like no issues. Like, it's fine that it was a small panel.
Yeah.
In fact, it was a good warm-up for us.
Yeah.
Yeah. But the quote of that panel that I loved is, so one of the people who was interested in hearing us speak came in and they go, "Whoa, you guys are younger than I thought you'd be." So what was kind of cool is like the paradigm of panelists being up there like sort of like old grandmas or something.
Yeah.
Talking about the book club kind of blew this person's mind.
Interesting.
That we're all fairly young-ish.
Yeah.
The gray in my beard doesn't really support that assertion, but it was kind of cool to break that person's thought of what it would be, and it was really fun. It was really fun.
That's interesting for them to go thinking elderly for book club.
Right? I might have thought that way too.
Yeah, maybe.
If I were an outsider.
Was the panel like how you guys do the book club, or was it like is it like a live conversation about where you guys left off from the previous week of the book club?
Well, that would have been awesome, actually. We should have done that. No, it was a little mix, right?
Okay.
So it was kind of exploring how we have created a community.
Okay,
right,
okay.
Through book, and how that does tie to the need for immersion, right? Because reading is a very immersive process, and so we wanted to make that tie between what we do as a book club and what kind of niche it fills for us.
Yeah.
Because we've experienced like a very high level of immersion.
Yeah.
And how that can kind of scratch the itch a bit.
Yeah.
We also tried to talk about how one can create that community through the way that we created it. Not to say that it's 100% replicable, but we just sort of talked about like how we find people, how we sort of inherently have some rules, even though we've never stated some rules.
Sure, yeah.
How we choose books, how we coordinate across the country, etc. So it's kind of like if you ever want to do this, take our example and build from it if you like.
Yeah.
It was kind of a how-to, but also an exploration of, what's made it good for us.
Yeah.
A very inclusive space for all kinds of Star Wars fans.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's still valuable because, I mean, part of panels at cons are like workshops, how-tos, and how to build a book club is actually a pretty interesting topic. If you're, a voracious reader or you're into that or even curious about starting your own, I think that's good.
Yeah, and like I said, it really does fulfill the way we wrote it in the bio is like it fills the Halcy-Con shaped hole in our hearts. Because there is this aspect of immersion, right? Where when we sit down and we read a book, we are in the world, we're creating the world in partnership with the author. And then also our, what's so beautiful about the Star Cruiser, is it's a community of people. And so the book club does replicate that in a lot of ways.
Yeah. Can I put you on the spot and ask for a book recommendation for the listeners?
Book-wise?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, absolutely. I will start with what we started with, which is Splinter of the Mind's Eye. We
Mm.
started with the very first sequel to Star Wars in 1978. George Lucas gave sort of like a rough outline to a gentleman, and I can't remember his name off. I think it's maybe Alan Dean Foster.
Okay.
Maybe I just pulled that out of the air. I don't know.
I don't know.
And it was basically the plan B if Star Wars didn't do well.
Yeah.
It was kind of like, okay, so here's like a lower budget, lower scope,
Hmm.
one planet story. And he kind of gave him an outline, and Alan Dean Foster wrote it. And it's bonkers. It's
Yeah.
very bizarre. It's very pulpy.
Okay.
It's the characters don't really act like themselves very much. But it's kind of a fun read because
Yeah.
it's like this alternate universe of, let's say like there's a branching timeline. 1977, Star Wars does well, Star Wars doesn't do well. This is where it would have gone. And it's kind of bizarre to imagine
Yeah.
that alternate universe.
That is interesting. So it's a sequel off of New Hope or Return
Yes.
Off of New Hope. Okay.
Yeah. New Hope. It was in
Interesting.
78. Again, it was just a backup plan.
Yeah.
Now, like all Star Wars stuff from that book does make its way into other things.
Of course.
Recycling is very,
Yeah.
very common. So, for instance, the planet was Mimban,
Mm.
which came up in Solo, right? That's sort of like muddy,
The mud.
swampy
Yeah.
planet. There were Yuzum in the book, and Yuzum are another creature character that are supposed to be native to Endor. That are like these long-legged furry guys that were
Okay.
kind of like the first pitch for
Ewoks. Okay.
They don't really look like they do in Return of the Jedi or the art that Macquarie did.
Yeah.
But the name stuck.
Yeah.
And then the Kyber crystal. It's spelled differently, but it's like Kaiburr.
Interesting.
I
Yeah.
think it was the first mention of Kyber at all.
Mm-hmm.
It's just different, man. But
Yeah.
it's cool. It's really
Yeah.
interesting.
Yeah. That is cool. Did your second panel, the maker panel, that happened on the second day, right? How did that go?
Yeah. It was fantastic. It was kind of a nerd's dream come true in a lot of ways. To have a little. Do I have it right here? So, to have one of these, which is like a standee that says Galactic Mercantile Guild to put on your table is fantastic. But
Yeah.
then to have your name, as a standee to be in front of a vendor, or,
Yeah.
a panelist is. I've been to cons my whole life.
Yeah.
I've been to Comic-Con. I've done press at Comic-Con, which is pretty freaking awesome.
Yeah.
But to be a panelist is a different thing.
Yeah.
It's like nerd achievement unlocked.
Yeah.
Man, panelists were fantastic. We did pregame, and I think that's always a good approach to pregame and pre-talk about your panel.
Yeah.
So maybe about 2 weeks beforehand, the five of us got together, and it was myself, and I kind of acted as a unofficial moderator.
Okay.
I didn't moderate in the sense where I had like a set of questions that I asked people.
Sure.
I just led the conversation.
Yeah.
And tried to lean into the other folks answering.
Mm-hmm.
But it was myself, a gentleman named Amrod Sekar from Amrod's Armory, who does a lot of great work. Ryan Street from, and I can't remember his shop name, but he does two podcasts, which is I Am Geek and Living with the Landspeeder.
Okay.
And fantastic guy, very talented, does a lot of kyber crystals.
Yeah.
And then Mike and Emily from Hyperspace Props, who are like the name in Sabak cards and metal coins for Sabak.
Yeah.
All four amazing, generous, thoughtful, creative people, and also really good panelists. They just nailed it.
That's awesome.
It was really cool.
That's awesome. Big crowd for that one?
Yes. Yeah. So again, that's where I felt a little bit more like, okay, we've done it, because we were again scheduled to get some really big panels, but we did have a big room.
Okay.
So that felt pretty good. So I'd say it was about 3/4 full.
Nice.
Against 3 other big panels.
Wow.
So not bad.
Yeah.
Could be worse.
Sure. Did you guys do any? Was it like open to the audience for Q&A, or is it mostly?
It was, yeah.
Okay,
we
cool.
opened up for Q&A, gave it about 10 or 15 minutes of Q&A, and
Yeah.
there were some fantastic questions that, man, I mean, like, it's as if they had really workshopped it. Like, it challenged us. I remember some of the questions. One was about self-confidence. Like, how do you know when you're ready to open a shop?
Oh, yeah,
And
that's a good
how
one.
do you get over that hump of, am I good enough or am I not good enough?
Yeah.
And that was, I think, a really interesting question, because I'd say most makers go through that.
Yeah.
That's sort of like decision making of like, when do you go official?
Yeah.
And change from just making stuff for yourself or your friends to, doing some business.
Yeah.
So that was a good one. Another one was about like whether OCD is helpful or hurtful. Right? That was kind of a cool question.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah. Another person talked about how do we deal with competing ideas. So for instance, there's lots of sort of not lots, but like, how do you differentiate yourself from somebody else? Like, how
Sure.
do you, there are people who do data cards,
Okay.
replicas of, I can grab one right here.
Yeah, please.
Anthony, like the Death Star plans.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
This is, a prop replica. How do you differentiate yourself creatively from just being a prop replica to creating something that's in universe?
Yeah.
But then also, how do you deal with all copycat products?
Yes.
Or people who might have an idea who's similar, or you have an idea similar to someone else. Like,
Yeah.
how do you make that differentiation and do so in an honorable way?
Yeah.
Again, not an easy question to answer, but
Right.
a good one to explore.
Yeah.
For sure.
That could be like a whole podcast topic, right? Like you could go a whole hour on that. Cause I mean,
Just
even,
that one, just that one alone.
yeah.
Agreed.
Cause when I had Mars on, we were talking about, we were talking about that. And, even when you were talking about the, your hydration units, like you said, you reached out and said, hey, I have this idea, and didn't want to feel like you were taking, I don't know if it was that specifically, but taking something that he's already done. Right. So,
oh, it was.
Yeah.
It was that specifically.
Yeah. That's cool, man. That's cool. Since we're talking about the panels, we'll do it for panels now. Any takeaways for the panels and how you would approach it in the future?
I still think pre-gaming is fantastic. If anybody's ever going to do a panel, it's especially if you don't know each other.
Right.
I've never met. Well, so the book club people, we talk all the time.
Yeah.
But we still pre-gamed.
Of course,
we
you
still
have to.
talked about what we wanted to explore. We had talking points to make sure we had enough material.
Yeah.
And also that we knew what each other's thoughts were on it, so one person kind of didn't like tread over each other's toes. So
Yeah.
each had something unique to say.
Yeah.
But with the makers panel, I had never met any of them. I was aware of almost all of them, but I'd never spoken to them as people. So
Yeah.
it really helped us to have a rapport with one another, right?
Yeah.
Some people were showing up to panels where they didn't even know who was on it. Not that was an organizational thing. It's just sometimes things came together really late.
Yeah.
Or people dropped out, or they had to change something last minute.
Sure.
But, as a person who's been in panels, I always appreciated the ones where it seemed like the people were having fun.
Yeah.
It seems like the people were like having some banter.
Mm-hmm.
Usually TV and movie panels have that a lot because
Yeah.
those people work together a lot. Whereas when it's like a group of like authors, sometimes there isn't that camaraderie because they don't really work together directly.
Yeah.
Not to say that's bad, but I always appreciate or enjoy the ones where it's not only informational, but it's also a bit entertaining.
Yeah.
And I think pre-gaming can help with that.
That's
you
a good
get comfortable with each other.
Sure.
For sure.
And then for the vending side, is there anything, learning, anything that you can take to the next one if you vend it again? Things that you might have learned from that part?
It's hard because there's a lot.
Yeah.
And some of it is stuff I'm still exploring and don't
Of course.
really have answers to. So, I have to kind of work that out. But what I would definitely keep is I only came with about 4 different items to vend.
Mm-hmm.
And the fewer in some ways, the better, because
Yeah.
then you have like a very focused narrative of the table and less to keep track of.
Yeah.
The paperwork alone is really tricky. When you have 9 people who have price sheets that you have not memorized,
Yeah.
and you're also trying to accurately pay them on the back end, like you have to keep track of everything really well.
Yeah. I was wondering about that.
Yeah, and I didn't really have, like a co-vendor. I did have some support folks. I had some friends that were helping me, but nobody who was like partnership where it's like, all right, you get the stuff ready, you write it down.
Yeah.
It was just all kind of one person. So I'd say have more than one person. It helps, and have like clearly delineated roles, because to do all of them is really challenging. I'm used to that in my daily work.
Yeah.
Doing multiple things at once.
Sure.
But vending, it just helps to have like some systems in place.
For sure.
But nonetheless, we got it done. Nonetheless, we made our sales. Nonetheless, we still had a very good con.
Yeah.
Yeah, and 9 different vendors, a lot to juggle. So maybe half of that.
Yeah, I've done some vending for myself, and just having different items. You're like, if you don't have price tags on them, you're either trying to commit it to memory, or you're like, it gets pretty rough. But yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah, price sheets help.
Price sheets, yeah.
Yeah, somebody who used to work for Image Comics, and they usually have very large booths, right? So, if you go to Comic-Con, like they have a whole like square block, right? And so, but what they do is they section things off. It's like, this thing is over here, this thing is over here, this thing is over here, and they have people who are kind of little mini experts in their area. That helps.
Yeah. Did you happen to be able to do your dice raffling that you were talked about?
I did.
Yeah. How'd that go?
I did, but I had to stop because it was, of the 20 things I was juggling constantly, that was the one I had to kind of let go.
Yeah. Understandably so.
I would do it mostly, well, I did it at the beginning because I was stupid and thought I could do it all. But I would also do it like with very large sales, to kind of continue that relationship with the person who bought a good chunk of things.
Yeah.
To have them come away with a really fun experience.
Yeah.
I would also do it when the booth got a little slow, which was very rarely, honestly.
That's what I was gonna say. Yeah.
A little bit better. But yeah, that's the times I would bust it out. Just to have fun. Because it was fun for me too. So.
Real quick, was it like an all ages thing? Was there a lot of kids there?
It was all ages. I didn't see a ton of kids.
Okay.
It was definitely mostly adults.
Yeah.
Maybe like a smattering of teenagers, like 10 total, and kids, I'd say probably like another 10.
Yeah.
Out of the 600, it was mostly adults.
Did people treat it like stay in character, like kind of role play it, or do you think it was more casual and people are just happy to be there dressed up, or not dressed up at all? Because I didn't get to see like all the pictures but from what you posted, it was people most in costume from what I saw.
Yeah, it was a mix. Like, so I don't know if I even was really role playing that much. I mean, when I was in the booth, I was I'an Grayson. When I'm in costume, I'm I'an Grayson. And I am speaking as him, which is basically just a more salesman-y version of myself. A little bit more shucking and jiving.
Name tag and everything.
Yeah, definitely more gregarious, more larger than life than I typically am. Yeah. But that's not hard for me to do because, again, in my work, I put that persona on every day. Yeah. But it's just the Star Wars version, where I'm, using references or language that would be very Star Warsy or whatever. When I'm in costume, I always make it a point to refer to people as their character names. As much as I can, unless I need to not for a certain reason. But yeah. I mean, for me, I'm basically in character for the most part. But I think it depends on the person, tons of people in some sort of special wear, whether it be cosplay as a character or whether it would be their own OC or just some sort of like heightened Star Wars outfit. Like, I don't know. I'm trying to think of something that wasn't cosplay that I saw. Like maybe something that has a lot of like CSL logos on it. Something with a Chandrilla Starline logo. That, that's just like sort of Star Cruiser specific.
Sure.
There's a lot of folks with that, but no, lots of costumes, man. I mean, like, I'd say 90% of people are in costume.
That's rad. Especially showing up to an event that is celebrating the experience that Halcy-Con gave, right? Part of that is costuming and immersing yourself. So I was curious how much of that role play got into this convention, because that's actually something that doesn't happen at conventions usually, right? Like you've been and everyone's just themselves. unless they want a speaking character. But it's not
Yes.
even Halcyon Galactic Star Cruiser style where it's like encouraged in that way. So I was curious.
I'd say it's a slightly softer version than what you'd experience on the ship, because
Okay.
the ship, there is a plot. Whereas
Yes.
at the con, there's not. So there's no
Mm.
real need to be from somewhere
Okay.
and going to somewhere. You're really folks who have had this experience that is now, the way I like to think of it is like dusting off the character. Right?
Okay, yeah.
So these characters, lived and experienced and had lives on the ship. And they haven't since then. So it's barely like taking them out of the closet, dusting them off, and if you want to be a little bit more sentimental about it, like bringing them back to life.
Yeah.
When the closure of the Star Cruiser was in some ways the end of that character in a certain sense.
Interesting.
This is a way to kind of bring them back to life. So, I've used the I'an Grayson character as Burgundy Squadron, but really he was born out of the Star Cruiser.
Interesting. Okay, I didn't know that.
That persona was created for that experience, and then I dovetailed it into Burgundy Squadron because I liked the character.
Yeah.
And he is me.
Yeah.
I mean, right? I mean, I'an Grayson is just me. That's all he is. He is. In my imagination, he gets up and he goes to his workshop.
Yeah.
And here I am. I'm in my workshop. I'm in my kitchen. I'm here where I do my work.
Yeah.
And he gets up every morning and does his orders. But in my imagination, it's like, he's on Lothal and he goes into his junk shop that, of course, then opens out onto a Lothalian street with, loth cats eating garbage in the alleyways or whatever, right?
Yeah.
And so he's just me. But on the Star Cruiser, right, he's me that went on an adventure. And to dust him off and bring him out is a good feeling.
That's awesome.
In a lot of ways.
That's awesome. Now, speaking of the character, you guys went. Is this your first time to Batuu East in character, or at all?
No. So I mean, Star Cruiser.
Oh, right. Yeah.
You go to Batuu East,
of course,
every time you go, and I had been before.
Yeah.
We go to Batuu East probably maybe once a year.
Oh, okay. Wasn't aware. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, we went just this summer, so
nice.
Yeah, I mean, it's. I have friends there. I meet up with Star Cruiser folks pretty much every time I go to Florida. I do have good friendships with some of the cast members, and I do like to see them from time to time.
Yeah.
So, that's their neighborhood, so they don't really come over to our neighborhood too often.
Yeah. I'm gonna put you on the spot. Batuu East or Batuu West?
West is best.
West is best.
Say.
Sorry, folks. You heard it here first.
Well, I mean,
thanks for tuning in. Or cancel this, man.
I love them both. It's
Yeah.
also kind of bizarre. When Kate and I were walking around, she kept saying, wait a second, we're in Florida.
Yeah.
Because the blueprint is so similar.
Yeah.
With tiny little exceptions kind of on either end that it really fools you.
Yeah.
Because, I know that place like the back of my hand now that I have trod those streets so many times, that they feel like the same place. They really do.
Yeah.
Even though they're across the country. And of course, the major difference is being the resistance encampment in West is quite a bit longer.
Okay.
There's a lot more like the transition from critter country to resistance is a lot longer, and there's a lot more, plant life, I guess.
Yeah.
In East, it's very short and abrupt because it just goes under a tunnel.
Oh, okay.
And then over on the droid depot side, there's a big impact crater that West does not have.
Interesting.
That's kind of more near our Frontierland gate.
Mm-hmm.
And then in East, there's a whole one fewer entrance, right? So in West, we have 3 entrances, right? One over here and then kind of 2 over here, whereas there's just one.
Oh, okay. Interesting.
Right in front of Droid Depot.
Okay. And
honestly, that's it.
Yeah.
I mean, besides like the paint colors being slightly different because of the temperatures and climates that they encounter.
Yeah.
It's the same.
I wonder if they thought about, now there's probably like so much more continuity just with the parks, but I was like, selfishly, it would have been kind of cool to have 2 different versions, but.
Right. Well, I don't know.
Just thinking about it now.
I hope there's another one somewhere else. I mean, we do have some other Disney parks in other parts of the world.
We do.
Open up a different outpost somewhere.
Oh man, that would be crazy to do foreign, like Batuu, France, or Batuu,
Oh my gosh.
Tokyo.
Yeah,
Oh boy.
I would be broke. It's hard enough to go to the hyperspace lounge on the Disney Wish, the cruise ship.
Yeah.
Because that's one of the other things they have is that the Star Wars themed bar on the Disney Wish, and it's great. It's fantastic. It's not the Star Cruiser, but it's good.
It's good.
And the drinks are good. So
right.
I'm there.
You heard it here first. The next podcast, we'll talk about the Wish experience. How was ending the weekend for you?
Oof. There were a lot of tears, man.
Yeah.
Like, what I've been saying is that the con is not the same as the ship, but it is enough.
Okay.
I hadn't felt those feelings that intensely since the last time I'd been on the ship. And it's not an epiphany. It's not a huge epiphany. Most people are smarter than I am and have made this connection. That it's not the ship that's special, really. It's the relationships that you form with the people on the ship and the feeling of immersion and acceptance and the general commonality that everybody has about saying yes to everything. Yes, I want to adventure. Yes, I want to play. Yes, you're cool. Yes, I validate you. That's what's special, right? So if you just take the people and put them in another location, it is pretty dang close to the ship without the beautiful architecture.
Of course,
without the amazing characters, without the adventure.
Yeah.
So it is enough, though. Right?
Yeah.
I mean, because yes, I wish I could smell that smell of the ship again.
Yeah.
Yes, I wish I could sit and hear the sounds of like somebody winning at Halcy-Con.
Yeah.
Yes, I wish I could hear the door open to the climate simulator one more time. But at the same time, like, the people are enough. And it does fill one up with like really great feelings of just connection and camaraderie and I don't know, just a sense of belonging. Yeah, it's a beautiful thing.
That's awesome. Do you get any inkling that they'll do it again?
I hope. It was very well done. Like, for a first con, I received little to no problems. Yeah. No time where they had to like come over the loudspeaker and say, something was broken. Or, or the lights come on the ride. That kind of thing where you're like in the middle of Thunder Mountain Railroad and you're like,
please find the next exit. Yeah.
Like, we got to walk you off. I didn't perceive any of that. I do know that there were some challenges, but nonetheless, man, it was so well received.
Cool.
I really do hope it becomes a yearly thing because it's a fantastic, a fantastic second best.
Yeah.
And even if it doesn't continue, I believe traditions will continue that bring Star Cruiser people together.
I'm sure with all the positive feedback they're considering it, it would be too difficult not to, unless it was like a funding thing, right? Like if the cost was too much.
Very possible.
That's one of the things that pipe dream of mine is to turn this podcast, this community, turn it into a con, do panels with people that I've had on this show, or even like a Burgundy Squad thing. And, we're all coming in OC wise, right? Like those are big, dreams. I talked about it with Billy here and there and talking to everyone here on having them guest on this show. I think it's a possibility.
Well, I think as far as Burgundy Squadron, I think it's just a matter of time. I think there will be something that we all gravitate towards and create and do together.
Yeah.
My thoughts are probably a short film or some sort of event that brings us together beyond just a photo shoot, because photo shoots, we can do those all day, every day, and we do, right? I mean, there's things that's come in Villainy Cantina, there's Outpost 77, there's that one in Utah that I can't remember the name of right now. I think that's like a starting point, but I honestly think that one of our amazing creative people will really put the money or their money where their mouth is and create something for us to do a short film. That's my guess. Is what could or should perhaps be next. It's a natural step from where we've been.
Yeah, I think so. I can't agree any less. Anything else that we might not have touched on about the con that before we end it?
I think there's actually a huge thing we haven't talked about, but I think I'm gonna let Kate talk about most of it.
Okay.
Is like the culminating or final night, which was the gala.
Oh yeah,
It
yeah.
was. I'm not a big fashion person, but I guess we all kind of have to be if we're even remotely interested in costuming.
Yeah.
But like the level of talent people brought out that night just blew me away. Because I've seen red carpet stuff before, right? There was like a red carpet thing on the Halcyon that they would
Yeah.
do where people dress up kind of nice for day 2.
Mm-hmm.
But to have all those people together
Yeah.
and have like time,
Oh right.
it was next level, right? There was like couture fashion stuff going on.
Yeah.
That Kate's gonna explore on her podcast with Billy, of course.
Yeah.
They've already done it. Really, it's been recorded.
Yeah. I'm gonna have Kate on this show
I want
soon.
her to talk about that.
Yeah.
She's more knowledgeable.
Yeah.
But my job was basically to recruit people for her to talk to.
Okay.
Because I wanted her to be able to do her thing and be a great interviewer and documenter of these people's stories.
Yeah.
So my job, all I had to do was have an eye and go, whoa, look at that. That is cool. Come over here. You got to talk to us. So I was like the recruiter.
Yeah, like a producer for the red carpet. Like, oh hey, come on. Yeah, that's awesome.
Basically.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Man.
and everybody was game that I talked to.
Yeah.
And then the other aspect, I can't talk about it in depth because I wasn't there for much of it, but there was the whole weekend there was a sabacc room. So hyperspace props amongst some other people that I didn't quite get the names of all the contributors, so please forgive me if I don't know them all. They are online.
Yeah.
Sabacc for charity is probably one thing to look up.
Okay.
But they had this themed room and it was so ridiculously good. On the first night, I didn't even know it was there, and when I went in there, I was like, "Why have we been there all night? We should have been here the entire time, right?" Because they had lighting, they had tents, they had tables, they had characters walking around.
Dude, that sounds
They
rad.
had all the sabacc gear,
Yeah.
and it was so just well organized. The dealers were amazing, and primarily they were playing Coruscant Shift because that's the version of sabacc that was played on the ship.
Okay.
And that's what the tournament was based on.
Okay.
Because the average Star Cruiser person, if they did play sabacc, it was that version.
Oh, okay.
I'm more of a fan of Spike, Corellian Spike, and even more of a fan of Kessel sabacc, the brand new
The
version
one from Outlaws.
Outlaws, because it's just so freaking fun.
Yeah.
But Shift made sense.
Okay.
For the clientele who would have that
makes
knowledge.
sense. That makes sense.
And they ran a multi-hour tournament with many tables that were then filtered down into a championship table.
Okay.
There was an entry fee, and I believe half the again, quote me if I'm wrong.
Sure.
I believe half of it went to charity, and the other half went to the winner.
The winner. That's cool.
So it was super cool.
But you didn't get a chance to participate then.
I didn't play in the tournament because I wanted to be a little bit more mobile, and because I was part of the vendors table so much that I didn't really get to attend things. So I liked the ability to go back and forth between the events, at will without being chained to a table.
Yeah.
But I did play a fair bit of sabacc, and I had some good rounds. I don't usually play the gambling version. But knowing how to play poker basically helps you.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh wow, maybe I should enter this tournament. Good luck.
I don't know. Grayson might not be able to be trusted. He might have a little sleight of hand on him. Try to some skullduggery.
No, he's not a dirty business.
Okay, I get it. If it ever happens again, I'll have to infiltrate via the Mercantile Guild, maybe be your assistant to try to get in and help you at the table, or interview people, panel, or videographer. I'm down for whatever. I just
all of it. I mean, if you want to be at the table, there's an 8-hour training you have to complete. Some mandated reporter training.
Sure.
Bloodborne pathogens, Rhodian flu.
I'm in for it. I have the.
You would fit right in, and you would be just in hog heaven. Dee and Kate had never been on the Star Cruiser,
right?
And they were not very. They had concerns like, are we going to even get this? Are we going to understand? Are we going to feel out of place?
Yeah.
And that evaporated within about 3 seconds. Not only did they get it, but they also were just brought in. Nobody knew they had never been on the Star Cruiser.
Yeah.
They didn't care.
They don't care.
But they treated them just like any old friend.
Right.
And even so, like, especially Kate, like, being, secondhand cosplay for the longest time, there are definitely people who probably went to her Instagram to get ideas for
Oh,
how to
yeah.
make them. So she was part of it whether she wanted to or not.
Yeah. Those two kids, they're just so humble, and I know Kate is just all over the Star Wars Instagram feed that we've talked about in the past. If you look Star Wars Bound, her stuff's gonna come up like
Well, they just
crazy.
want to be they want to be useful, they want to be helpful, and they want to be authentic.
Yeah.
And they are.
Yeah.
But I think humility is a good feature to have.
Is.
It's better than the opposite, I suppose.
all these creatives we all need to learn how to take compliments, right? Because we're all just so critical of ourselves. And your stuff is amazing, and you've been such a pleasure to have on this podcast. Like always, we'll definitely have you on again. Where can people find you if they didn't already look in the description and watch the other episodes?
Absolutely. So Junk Traders Outpost on Instagram is where I live most of the time. Junk Traders Outpost also on Etsy is my main shop. And this weekend, I'm going to put 2 Star Cruiser related things on there. Well, not Star Cruiser, Halcy-Con related, in the sense that there was some ask to, put the remaining stock of the Halcyon medallions, primarily because there were some folks who wanted to go to the con and or even had tickets to go to the con but could not go for one reason or another. And so folks reached out to me to see if I would put those up on the shop, and I will. Okay. And then also those dice. They were a hit, man. I did not think they were going to be such a hit, but
I knew it when you showed it off. I was like, I love dice and people love dice, so
it's true. And you're a smart guy, so those will be up too. And it's like a really low price point. They're only like $15.
Yeah.
Super easy to make, and you can kind of pick which ones you want, which medals.
Ooh.
So I'll throw those up on the shop this weekend, probably on Saturday or Sunday.
This weekend?
Yeah. So in the
past. Yeah. So that it'll be up on the shop if supplies last.
You got it. So since this goes out usually on a Monday or a Tuesday, it will already be up. So
yeah, I'm already gonna be in the Etsy. I'm gonna be in the Etsy grabbing a pair. I was like, maybe we get a discount. I'll come pick it up myself.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. That'll make it easier. Shipping costs.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for being on the show. If you guys enjoy this podcast with Junk Traders Outpost, you can find more great creators on the Core Creator Podcast on the Rancor YouTube channel. These are now on Spotify, Apple, RSS feeds that you can get on your smartphone. I have an Etsy store. I haven't promoted it as much, but I'm making stickers now in the Star Wars universe, so keep a lookout for that. And also great, cool nerd shirts such as Star Wars on the Rancor Clothing website, where you can get shirts for a low price of $19.99. So small little plug from me there. And with that being said, I hope you all have a great rest of your galactic day. Punch it, Chewie. Boom.
May the stars light your way.
Bye, everybody. Burgundy Squad out. Punch it, Chewie.
May the stars... Oh, sorry.
I'll edit it.
I'm so sorry.
All right.
Take 2.
Editor, fix it. That's me.